Um, Hi, everyone, again. Thank you so much, and it's such a delight to be with all of you and to be here today with Anna Joyce Springer, who is our special guest. And it's also a very intimate guest to have, since Anna Joy and I have been friends for a very long time. And we're actually here we're flanked by our two other friends, Mary, Corey, and Lucas, who we're hoping they will stay seated for a while. And Shameka is putting Anna Joy's bio, for those who don't know, into the chat, but she's an amazing writer. She's an amazing performer, history and punk rock music, amazing teacher, amazing friend, just amazing in so many ways. And so just to get kind of into the conversation, Anna Joy, so you're the first person that I ever, like this series, actually part of the whole impetus of the series is to bring different strains of thinking and being together. So namely like intellect and spirituality and emotion, and, kind of interdisciplinary making, and you're the first person that I ever heard the term spiritual memoir from. And I can't remember at what point. It could have been one of the many panel proposals that you and I have proposed. Most of them have sadly not been accepted. You all have super missed out. But I'm curious to hear a little bit about, what your idea of the spiritual memoir is. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's a story of a struggle for which there is no answer. That everybody in some way or another, that people go through, or that beings go through, and that there's not necessarily a knowledge answer. There's like resolutions that can come, and so it's like seeking. It's a story of a seeking of an impossible resolution that must be possible to go on. Do you know what I mean? So it's like always this story that's it's a paradoxical story, because it's a miracle story, right? It's a miracle story. Like, how can I go on? I can't go on. I must go on, in whatever situation it is. And it may not be the story. It may not be the story of finding an answer, but there's a solution somehow maybe involved, or there's a way to metabolize whatever's causing the suffering that feels like it's beyond one's own thinking.
Yeah, so maybe like where something becomes, Sela Satterstrom will talk about a kind of healing where there's something, you have a wound, you have the scar still, but that actually also becomes kind of this power scar. And she'll talk about writing from the light of that.
Yeah, I think a spiritual memoir could be the writing from the light of that. And I think for me, I would have to be in some part of the light of it in order to even do writing about it that I would share. So literature. But I also think maybe it shows the parts that don't or aren't yet light. Like, so it stages the part that's impossible of healing too, and it allows that to be shared, maybe.
Right. So why call it? What was important about using the word spiritual for you?
Okay, so when I first started using that term in like academic or queer literary settings, I'm trying to think if there were other settings, maybe punk, like academic queer punk. It was not a term. To me, it seemed like the word spiritual was a word that was secretly forbidden. And so I don't like when there's a secret in the room, especially when it's a secret rule. And so, so that coupled with the fact that like much of my life was about, I was doing a lot of spiritual practice. I thought it was dumb that people were seeking certain kinds of liberation, intellectual liberation, and that we weren't allowing ourselves to talk about all of the kinds of intellectual liberation. And spiritual liberation to me is like so much a part of my intellectual liberation. So yeah, so I was talking about it in academic settings first as a kind of like, nah, fuck you, you can't tell me not to do this. But also, you know, I've been in recovery since I was 23, and so it's like 28 years now. And it seems at a certain point, like there's, you know, I don't maybe mention it in certain settings, but it's at a certain point, it's like there's 3/4 of my life that I can't talk about if I don't mention this thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you, so
there's more to it. I mean, we can talk
yeah.
more about it, and I can ask you about yours as well, because you also have written kind of spiritual memoir fiction or spiritual prose.
Yeah. And I
coming through.
Right. And I would also, it's like, if I'm going to tell the whole story, then there has to be a spiritual dimension. And I want to tell as much of, I mean, I don't know that you can ever tell the whole story, but if I want to tell the story of as many bodies as I'm working with, and by that I mean my physical body and my material body, my physical material body, my emotional body, my spiritual body, my energetic body, that I need to include. I need to make space for all of those. You know, to me, the book also embodies all of those bodies. Any book or any work does. And so it's important to bring the sense of spirituality into the conversation, right? And I pause there on that thing of like any book does, because I don't think that literature necessarily needs to be a book.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that's a nice, you know, in your, so Anna Joy, for those who haven't read, has this amazing essay called Dazzle the Sky that was initially published in the Portland Review, right? And then came out in a anthology, and is now you're going through a revision of it, and it's going to be,
it's a big thing now.
It's a big thing now. It's going to be part of a reissue of
The Bird
Wisher, which is her first, it's like a fabulous memoir, right?
Yeah, fabulous memoir, and probably spiritual memoir too.
Yeah, absolutely. Along with, and then her other book, I just want to say, it's The Vicious Red Relic Love, that everyone should get and read. But in that particular essay, you talk about how writing is, you think of writing as something that one does for oneself, and that literature is an offering, right?
I do talk about that. I'm not sure if I'm right anymore. I've been saying it for so long that I might have come up the other side and come up with other things, but I'm not there yet. So I'm still sticking to it.
So tell me what you mean, and then let's
go through the process by which we understand that we're always making shit up. So I think that, you know, when I started saying writing is something that we do as literature, something that we make an offering of, I was trying to distinguish for myself the different kinds of writing practices I have, and that especially because I'm writing about writing personal narrative, writing life story, I wanted to sort of distinguish. I needed to know how to finish something, because if I'm writing to myself, it's never finished. Right. So I needed to know how to work with form in a way that will allow me to care about finishing something. Okay. And I have ADHD, which I've just learned that's what's, you know, weird. Like that's what's been one of the weird things in my life that I didn't know how to name. And so I can just endlessly proliferate, you know, so when I think of something as literature, I think of it as like something that is going to be for someone else. And then, and in that it's for someone else, it allows me to do my thing too. So putting myself in an imaginary or real relationship with the reader allows me to make the thing in a way that it wouldn't allow me to make it if I were just writing from my own memory. So I think that it's an offering. It doesn't have to be a kind offering though. You know, I think when I think of offerings, I think of, you know, often when I'm talking about it in classes or thinking about it, I think, oh, and it's like staging a party, like you're a host, and you know what comes first? Do you put out the cheese first, or is there music first? And about hosting events, there are these different parts of it, and there's these arcs that people go through. And so I thought of it like somewhere between a party and a weird art installation, right? And then I was like, oh no, I'm talking about Burning Man. I was like, well, that's okay. If it was Burning Man that I made, I'd probably like it. First of all, it would not be in the desert. Second of all, maybe not the drugs. I don't know. But so an offering, and they're like, well, how am I bringing someone through this piece? Because I was trying to think of how it's literature is a time-based medium, and not a lot of people were talking about narrative or as prose as a time-based medium. And because of the ADHD and some reading things, reading takes me a really, really, really long time. Reading is really hard for me. I read every word aloud in my head. And so I have to hear it first. So it goes as slow as speech. And so when I think of making more words for someone, or making more words that are an offering to someone, I think like, wow, this is really asking a lot of their time. And there are so many other things they could be reading. I really want to make this a good one. So I'm not going to get the like already cut, like whatever cheese things right now. I'm going to get the fancy cheese, or what, if I can't, if I can make that metaphor of cheese.
You can. Yeah, you can.
Like, what do I want to get? Can I give it? And, this has its pros and its cons, right? It's like, oh, is the offering ever good enough? Right. And then maybe I don't ever want to give it, or I need to keep doing it. So
well, no, because I was thinking, like, I like this. To me, this brings up a question about audience, right? And that to know kind of who to imagine who you're writing for, or to imagine an audience, I think can be very helpful. And also it informs the work on so many different levels. But what I also like about the idea with an offering is that it doesn't have to be a book. So a performance could be an offering, right? But then I also started thinking about offerings like in terms of ritual, or in terms of a spiritual practice, and that sometimes you might make an offering to a non-human entity, right? And so could you have a literature of is that also literature? Could that be a literature? Or could you have a literature of a petition, that you're writing out, but you're burying it?
For sure. I mean, like a spell is an offering, right? I mean, it's an offering in that performance way, where it's a request and an offering in the same place. To me. Or it doesn't have to be, but it can be a request and an offering, especially if I'm not just wanting to take in myself, right? So
absolutely, no, it is,
right. So and so that's like how performance works for me, and that's how I have to imagine when I'm making a piece of literature for others, is that there's something involved. And so sometimes I'm not usually, I'm only at certain points in the revision process am I thinking about like people as the audience, real people. I'm more thinking about an offering to the world that I want to be in, that needs to be there. And we were talking about this a couple days ago on a drive, or whenever it's like, oh, I don't necessarily care about publishing work or putting work in the world that I don't think needs to be there. Right. And that again has pros and cons, because who am I to determine what needs to be there? And at the same time, I'm just like, I'd rather do X, Y, and Z with my time than making there be more words in the world that I don't think need to be there.
Right. Well, so is there something about a kind of, so I want to go to a specific performance, and thinking about the offering, like part of what makes something a spell or makes something an offering is also thinking about intentionality, right? And so I want to talk about a performance that you did many years ago that I think informed the Dazzle the Sky essay, which was oracle. You're a bird. What was it called? Like bird oracle?
It's like the Inside Voice Oracle.
The Inside Voice Oracle. So this was at the Maxon Schindler House, and you did a performance there where you, it was part of a series that I was curating but you were the oracle on the roof, and people would go into the bathroom of the Max Center Schindler house, and there were instructions on the wall, and there was a plunger, wasn't it? Like a plunger that had tubing attached to it, and they could receive a bird oracle reading from you. And they were very eerily accurate. Yeah. And so, but in the essay, you talk about how, you were part of what you were thinking about was that, like, what is, like, how can divination become a kind of method or a process toward making a performance or making a piece of literature. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I can talk about that. I mean, that was such a site-specific idea, and and my ideas so often, my favorite ideas so often come from a request, right? And so, the prompt for everyone, the prompt for me was, I hadn't been writing bird oracle cards at all. I write about birds a lot, but I hadn't been doing that. But the prompt was, find a room in this house called Max Schindler House in Hollywood, and it's an early modernist house. I don't love modernism, like it's not my favorite, but it's a special place in terms of architectural history, in that, like, it was partially inside and partially outside at all times, right? And so so the house's walls move so it can be open and closed at the same time. And the roof was a place where people slept. And nobody who was going to the show there could go on the roof. Right. So, there's a lot of reasons why I chose the roof. One, I love to do something with other people without having to deal with people. Right. I'm scared of people often. And so, like, I could go do this performance thing. So, and the plunger, I don't know if you know, but the plunger, I had a friend who was really good at sound design. And she said, a plunger is like a natural microphone. So it's a good thing to get sound into people's ears. And so I was on the roof and I had a tubing and a plunger. So I didn't know that I was going to be doing any kind of divination, really. What I thought was, the process that I went through was like, oh, this is about the space. The space is a place where the inside and the outside meet and merge. They come together. So I was working with the space. And then I was like, well, what's the thing that comes inside that, can make people afraid? Or, so I was like, oh, I wonder if birds get in there. Right. And, a lot of times people get really freaked out when a bird comes inside. Well, also because the bird's really freaked out. Right. So that's how it started. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. But then I was like, oh, I've been kind of studying bird symbology for a while. What do I do? And so then I wasn't looking at the people as they came in. I couldn't see who it was. And I would pull a card and say, okay, this bird is coming to you now. And I would give them a fortune. And I walked out of my space.
And you wrote all the fortunes.
I wrote all the fortunes. Yeah. I mean, I borrowed them. I had been studying birds for this kind of aviary. It's a bestiary form, a medieval form called the aviary. It's a bestiary of birds. And I had been writing a story in that form since graduate school. And so I took some of that information I had and made them into these things. And I came out of the event and it felt really fun. I really loved it. I loved getting to perform, but also not having to be in front of people. I got really into it. It felt really intense and wonderful. And then I came out and people were staring at me like, like something, like I had hair all over my face, or, some, like I turned lights coming out of my eyes and they looked scared of me and stuff. And I thought, aha, power. No, no, of course, because it was power. Right. I was like, oh no, what have I done? Right. Oh no. Like, so there was partly a little bit of me that was probably really thrilled, and other part of me that was like, I've gotten scared people. I did it wrong. But then I've done it a couple other times since then. And I was just like, I don't know is this divination? It feels like it is. And because I don't have that relationship with the spirit world where I can really experience it as that, I just sort of stick with the material and I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think I'm psychic. I don't know, but I know that I sense things, and here's this. And if it works for you, yay. And I hope I don't do any damage.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, I don't know if that gets into
Well,
performance and literature.
I think it's like, yeah, I mean, I think I think that's an interesting question about like, well, what is divination,
Mhm.
right? Because to me, there's so
Mhm.
much about actually tuning into a moment
Mhm.
and letting the invisible that's already all around us inform
Mhm.
and then um, and then starting to read that which is already all around us
Mhm.
into a kind of it's story writing. You know, you're starting to make
Mhm.
a kind of story, or
Mhm.
you're speaking certain images that will connect into some kind of story or some kind of
Mhm.
meaning making
Mhm.
for another
Another
person.
person that you don't get to
Right.
know.
But it's also a way of using chance
Mhm.
to speak with the invisible realm.
Mhm.
Right. And to me, also, like, everyone is able to do that.
Mhm.
It's about intention
Mhm.
and a devotion, I would use
Mhm.
almost.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it did feel spiritual because I was like, I wanted wealth, I wanted
Mhm.
goodness for everyone,
Yeah.
including me. And I wanted the truth,
Yeah.
you know, and goodness. And for me, it's like the higher power for me, the only one that I know about is for realsies is, you know, the fact that love exists and
Mhm.
and can be done in any situation. Like I can bring it to any situation.
Mhm.
And whatever's happening right now.
Mhm.
Like this is the truth. All lines, all roads led to this. This is the
Mhm.
truth. Whatever this is, all the things, plus the ability to bring love to it. And that's what I know of higher power. So I know that that's a spirit, like it feels like
Yeah.
a spiritual thing when I'm doing that. And I guess that's what I mean about producing literature,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Say more.
Well, just in terms of an offering, I guess there's the writing that helps me do my thing, and then there's the writing that feels like it's bringing some kind of love to the world.
Mm.
Do you know?
Mhm.
And again, it doesn't have to be sweet love.
Right.
It can be rage love, or you're included here love, or
Right. Or, I mean, something that is
Mhm.
seeing something clearly, or like bringing a certain truth of perception,
yeah.
is loving, but it can often be very upsetting.
So onward towards spiritual friendship.
Yeah, when I asked Anna Joy, so Anna Joy, it's so nice to have her visiting me. And yesterday, after coming back from a delightful, we turtle discoed with Petra Kuppers and Vidyu and Stephanie Height and T.A. Noonan.
Mhm.
And but Anna Joy had said like that when she was thinking about what we might talk about, that one of the things she was interested in talking about, and I was up for this, was what spiritual friendship.
Mhm.
And so I was like, spiritual friendship. So then I would thought, well, Anna Joy, okay. So if we're writing the book of our friendship, our spiritual friendship, we're co-creating it together. What is the name that you would give to a chapter of that book, and why?
Mhm. I came up with the answer.
Okay.
I got this prompt a little bit in advance. So, I mean, there's so many good chapters. I just think we should like drop everything and write it now. But uh, it would have to be, and this could also be the title of the book for me, is I have no idea how to fix this. And so it references some, you know, like when you really love a friend and you have the in jokes that you can laugh about and nobody knows about. But, you know, I actually bring this up when I'm talking at meetings all the time because it's such a first step, right? I was going through, Teresa had a basement in a house where she was, you know, editing Les Figues for a while and raising a family and all sorts of things in Los Angeles. And that's where I spent a bunch of my time with friends. We met before that, but and I was going through a really painful divorce, and like a bit of a divorce from a friend community, and and the death of my mother, and I was all alone, or I felt that I was all alone. I didn't have any people that I felt close to where I lived. And I couldn't afford my house anymore because the real estate thing tanked after 2006 or 2008. And so I couldn't afford my house. I had no friends. Teresa, at a certain point, we've just known each other for maybe a year or something, and it's like, you just have to get out of there. You have to come here and move to Los Angeles and be friend, and you'll stay in my basement. And I was, yes, absolutely. I need that. And I needed someone to reach out to me. And this is another thing we've talked about. And that's part of the spiritual friendship, is we're not here to do it all on our own. And we're not here to find it all on our own, because like, I needed you to ask me that. And so, and then I was sleeping in this little this little single bed down in the basement where the Les Figues happened, the press. And there was a refrigerator full of Diet Cokes down there, right? And necessary Diet Cokes for that household. And on the side of the fridge, there was just this piece of paper and hand painted, it said, I have no idea how to fix this. And so every morning or afternoon or whatever, when I woke up, in my grief, that was the first thing that I would see. And it was just like, yes, that is the truth. And, and can I bring love to that?
Yeah.
Right. Or and if I can't bring love to that, can I receive the love that I'm getting from my friends, in this moment where I just, and it's hard when you're a smart, competent, amazing woman to be at that point where you have no fucking idea how to fix something. And we are all there. We are all there at points in our lives. And so then when you moved here to Florida, you gave me that. And so I keep it in my drawer. It's gotten a little flaky.
Well, and what's funny about that is that that's actually, Matthew Timmons had organized some art show. I don't even know what it was. It was some installation, and there was all these pieces of art on the floor that the idea was you can take something. So that was literally like this piece of art made as an offering for somebody to take. And so that's what I picked up and put on the fridge. Yeah.
I mean, it's become a part of my everyday vernacular for acceptance. There are different kinds of acceptance, but that accepting that moment of like, I have no fucking idea how to do this. This is absolutely a wreck and I don't know what to do here. And I'm just, it's that moment of why, God, why, or what the fuck, and so I think like, for our chapter, it would be that moment of feeling like, I don't know how to fix this, but somebody's helping me. And then there would also be moments where I've like seen you going through something so hard and so wanted to be able to fix it, and had to, be a supportive friend, or have to be a supportive, or want to be a supportive friend, and know that support doesn't look like me going in there and being like, don't do it or whatever it is, right?
Absolutely.
And that's part of the spiritual friendship thing. It's like kind of trying to know when to back off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So I think my chapter would just be the owls, the owls. And part of this is because, Anna Joy has a special connection with owls, but I don't know if it's like when owls show up, as Anna Joy has said, like that means that there's something real is happening, something true, and to pay attention, right? And why I'm thinking of that though is because one of my early memories of my mother's, like sort of being really upset spiritually was when she found out that, I've made this story up, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, that when she found out that the women's Bible study that she was going to was run probably by two women that were lesbians, like a couple. And somehow this translated into my mother going through the house and gathering all of the owl figurines and anything with the owl on it. And this was the 70s. And we were of a certain class, I should also say that. So there was a lot of owl stuff, and me asking her, like, in this like intense energy, and me asking her, like, why is she doing that? And she said, because owls are from Satan or something like this. They're evil. They let spirits in. And so, but which is a sad story. It's a sad story, but it's the thing of like over and again, there's ways where it's like you have a story until there's a new story, right? And also the new story is also a story.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it's not something like it's also it's something to note, but not necessarily something to attach to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is what I feel like over and again in our friendship. It's like you have given a new like hermeneutical spin to something. Right. And so it's like, oh, here's another way of seeing this thing, even as you're modeling the way that your own awareness of the story and non-attachment to stories in that sort of Buddhist sense, over and over again. I mean, you're the person that I learned about Tara Brach from, like, so grateful for that. You know, just so many things that have spoken so deeply to me in that regard. So
thank you.
Yeah.
And you know, and that owls, like, people, a lot of people who are afraid of them, and a lot of people are afraid of them, you know, like they talk about them being from the underworld or them being dead, like close to death. They're a death creature, they're a night creature. And you know, they're scary sounding if you're out in the woods and you don't know what's, you know, and also, you know, they can eat your dog.
They can eat your dog. And they have, like, in Florida, like when I went to buy the furniture out in the Florida room, the woman had these birds, including,
I just almost said human birds. She had human birds,
but she had a barred owl that was injured. It couldn't fly any, like it couldn't, or something was going on with it so that it couldn't be on its own. But I got to be close to it and see its first eyelids come down. So there's that kind of very creepy, but like amazing. The call. So
oh, they're so good. And they're turning the head around, like, as if they watched The Exorcist and wanted to scare us all. Yeah, no, they're such a trip. I love them. I like the little tiny one. I love them.
So, well, do we, I think that there's time for questions, but also if somebody, but we also want to like pull some cards, but we do have a minute if anyone has any questions, or if anyone would like, is it okay if somebody would like to have a bird card pulled specifically for them?
Absolutely.
To sort of like note that. Would anybody like to have Anna Joy pull a bird card for you? You don't have to have a specific question. You can just say me. Sure. Who is Jacob?
Person I know.
Okay. So Jacob does, and then yes. Okay. Oh, we got them lining up. Okay, so the first one.
Get Jake.
So Jake. You gotta.
Oh, it's not doing it. Sorry. Okay, hold on. Thank you. Okay, hold on just a second, Jake. I need to look into this for a sec. So yeah, okay. So Jake, I pulled who came to us is Pelican. Pelican is a parent. I don't know if you're thinking about parenting at all right now, or if you are raising something or someone. It might even be learning to, you know, sort of intentionally split into adult and child within yourself so that, you know, the adult part can take care of the little kid part. But it's a parent that it's a parent figure, and it's very, very, very devoted. It's a very loyal parent figure who actually will even feed its baby birds its own blood, but you know, so it has that sort of like, could look like a martyr thing, but it's happy to feed the kids its blood, and it has the blood to give. So it's not about losing yourself in caring for something that needs adult care. And let me see. There's one kind of way to be cautious around Pelican, and that is if if you've done something that has caused some harm, and you regret it and you want to repent and you're taking action to make amends, and those actions to make amends hurt you, that's something to be cautious about. Your amends don't need to hurt you, and they in fact shouldn't hurt you. They should lift you up, even as they're lifting the person or the people or the group or whatever that you're wanting to show that you're invested in being the self that you wished you could have been when you did the harm. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Should I do one
Okay.
more, or is there?
Yeah, there's like a line up here. So,
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so
I might be
Maggie.
able to. Okay, let's see. I didn't. Let's see. I didn't prepare for this, so this might be intense. So let me just see. Maggie's like amber. Okay. Hi, Maggie. Thanks for coming here. I'm good. It's good to hear you. Hi, honey. So see, this is a very personal thing to do in front of people. So I have to get Maggie's permission to say what it says. It's in front of people, you know. So the bunting is associated with your mons. If you've got a mons, sort of the round of the part of your whole vaginal area, and it has to do with the bunting is, you can look it up if you want to Google the bunting. It's about, for an artist, it can be about needing to or wanting to make your work more libidinal. So more sexual and libidinal, and maybe like even kind of voracious in a way that maybe, I'm not sure, but it might have, I'm guessing here just because America and women and stuff, but like it might have felt like you were being like kind of perpy and thready, but you're not a perp and you're not a threat. So I don't think, but the other thing is the other part about libidinal outwardness, which I was like, it feels like the opposite of, can be the opposite of being trapped, that kind of brightness and outwardness. But bunting can also, bunting is a bird that gets trapped or has gotten trapped before. So it could also be that if you feel trapped, are you taking too much of something? Like something that's hurting you, that's making it worse to be trapped. So like, like basically if you have an addiction that's getting picked up right now, it might be that that addiction can be kind of like a mindfulness bell to let you know that in some ways you're feeling trapped. And so I don't know which of those two, or if together those two speak to you. It might be that the way through the sense of being trapped is to be kind of like horny in your art. I don't know.
That sounds actually pretty perfect.
Okay. It's a very weird process, this one. And I made these, you can't see the cards, Adrian, because I haven't made any drawings. I've just only written them. So they're just writing. Right now I'm just flipping through a screen. So, but maybe I should make the pictures.
Should make the, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Or you can collaborate with somebody.
Collaborate. Yeah, I like making pictures.
So let's see. So should we do like one more, or how do you feel?
I'm okay.
You're okay.
But do you want to? You pulled a card too.
Well.
Hi, Lucas. I'm madly in love with her new puppy dog.
Yeah, Lucas wants to.
I need to look at that animal. Is that? Oh my God. Okay.
Okay. So the next person was Sela.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything down below and in the messages, just to make sure we're getting this right.
Okay.
Because, it's in front of people. Okay.
Okay.
What happens here? Hi, sweetie. Hi, sweetie.
Lucas is helping.
Hi. It's not vulture. I have to do this eyes closed because I'm too close to this. Same right now.
Go the other way.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That was one of the first ones that came up. I just wanted to double check, Sela, because like you're I feel you a lot, so I'll make sure that I'm being careful. I read just the fortune that I wrote for this one. This one, the one that I have here has a little bit of a writing aspect to it that I made. So first the interpretation is
Should we say that what bird it is?
oh, so sorry. I had it in my head. It's a
Yeah.
robin. This is a robin, which is, I don't know if you've read Sula in a long time. Morrison Sula tells me almost everything I need to know about robins who arrive when Sula comes to town. But so Sula, robins are the giver and receiver of charity and desire for a community of praise, companion to the lonely, and visitor of sanctuaries. The fortune that I offer here is your aesthetic community encouraging and full of praise, or is it a bunch of bottom feeding art star wannabes? Go to where the love is. Explore new kinds of sanctuary and even different religions. Make your writing a gift. Interesting. So that one's like just flying around the room already here. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just have to add this, that in the description it says fondness for church going, notoriously visiting churches and singing along from the lectern and choirs. And I just know, Sela, that you appreciate that.
It is, and they carry the news. They can be a little bit gossipy, but they tend to bring the news to people, like deliver the good word. Yeah, kind of. They're a good word. They often are they have been in symbol history associated with sacrifice. But this isn't a bird of sacrifice. This is a bird of joyousness and making sure that the people that are around you are full of praise and like basically, being careful to cut it short when people are bonding over, bullshit.
Right. So it's like people are full of gratitude, like,
And it doesn't have to always be that, like silly gratitude, but it's just like, if you're bonding with people who get off on being mean to other people, it's not going to feel good. Yeah.
That's so true. Yay. Okay. So I guess, let's see. So should we do a final card for the kind of community?
Sure. Okay. I love that.
And should we do a divination card? Or like, what do people want?
Why don't you? I want to see you do it.
Okay.
Yeah. And do you know about all the birds in the tarot?
Oh yeah.
I just learned about it. I don't know anything.
I mean, I know that there's a lot. I haven't ever traced them through.
There's something that you can get that somebody did trace them through. And I didn't know.
Okay. Let me just.
Okay.
Let's see. So what is the message that we need to hear? And I'm going to unspotlight us so that I can just see everyone too. Okay, there's everyone. Yeah, Sarah saying that the ibis is in the star card. Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Okay, so the card that came up is the Seven of Wands. And in my deck, which is the medieval Scapini deck, it looks like this. I don't know if people can see. And let me just think here a second. So this is often in this, So in this particular deck, there's 7 different figures and they're all wearing different colors and they're all kind of like doing different kinds of, like they're dressed for different kinds of activities. And there's also the figure that is sort of like preaching from a platform, like trying to get people to come onto their side. And this to me right now is having something about like looking at like, how are you aligning, like what are you dressing for? Like, how are you aligning with like play and team, right? Like, how are you also like holding your posture? How are you holding your energy? And how are you aligning with particular kinds of teams? And I say that like there could be like the team of despair, or like the team of wonder, or the team of like, I'm just so over it, or the team
that could be like a practical, like a work team.
It could be a work team. Yeah, it could be a work team
like
too. Yeah, it could be a work team too. But I'm seeing sort of like the energetic postures a lot in the card.
Yeah.
I'm also showing it to Anna Joy, and I'm going to ask her to also like see what she sees in the image. There's something sort of, sevens can often be about some kind of victory or some kind of like good omen, but this is kind of a funny card, right?
No, this is, I feel like there's a lot of disconnection, and I see the outfits and like I'm seeing a lot of not posturing, but like people aren't noticing each other.
Yeah.
They're not noticing each other. They're into their roles.
Right.
There's some kind of role, and then there's someone who's trying to direct the roles.
Yeah.
Or an entity that's trying to direct the roles. And so a lot of the people are in reaction to that. I think
they're in reaction, or they're not
noticing,
or they're in isolation.
And then some of them are like hiding their face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I also think that to me, this is something around like coming out, like as we're sort of like coming to the end of the year, and many of us might have some kind of break. Right. But also like, so it's like how how are you playing what role are you sort of like playing or identifying with? What might, and also just like being okay too with that, like just being like, here's where I'm at, like I'm tired, or I am in despair.
Yeah.
Or I am checked out.
Yeah.
Right.
And coming out of isolation, if people are getting their booster shots, or if people's children are getting their vaccinations, like that, it might be a time where it's hard for people to see each other. Yeah. For us to see other people, and for them to see us, and like people might be a little bit sheltering in place inside the body a little bit.
Absolutely.
And that it could be possible to extend that sense of place to include the other people, but it might be maybe it might be necessary also to keep it really tight to the self and not include them as much.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that this often can be kind of a weary after the battle sort of thing too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
weary after the
battle. So all of the noticing what's going on internally. So that's the message. And I think we're close to the time here. So Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. And I'm going to stop the